Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Product Chats. I'm your host, Rebecca Calageris, and as always, I'm thrilled you're going to join us today. Before we dive into our conversation with today's guest, who is one of my favorites, I have a couple of quick reminders and asks for you, our valued listeners. First, this is nearly 400 episodes of Product Chats that we've done. I love hosting this show. I love learning alongside with you. I love the guests and the information they give us. And my only ask is if you also love this show, please take a moment to give us a review. It could be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts. Your reviews will help us help others find us and make a difference. And they'll also get to hear this amazing show. Also, if today's conversation inspires you, don't hesitate to share the episode, shout it from the rooftop, share it wherever you'd like, spread the knowledge. Let's grow the community of product enthusiasts together. Oh, my other announcement is actually a really exciting new segment that we're adding to the show, which is our listeners' questions segment. Every week, I'm going to answer live on air a different question from a listener. So if you've got questions, whether it's about product management, product marketing, or anything else related to the world of product, we want to hear from you. Don't be shy. And there's two options. You can either email me at productchats@pragmaticinstitute.com. Just include your name, your title, and of course your question. Or if you prefer, you can give us a call at 480-536-8635. That's 480-536-8635 and leave us a voicemail. Don't forget to mention your name and title along with your question. And we might even just play your voicemail on the air. So please reach out. We'd love to hear from you. All right, let's get digging into today's episode. Hello, and welcome to the Pragmatic Product Chat series, where we tackle the biggest challenges facing today's product management, product marketing, and other market and data-driven professionals with some of the best minds in the industry. I'm Rebecca Calageris for Pragmatic Institute and your host for this episode. Today, we are having on one of my favorite guests and one of our most frequent guests, a very smart man. I don't like to tell that in front of him too often. Gets a big head. Very smart man and just really, really, really passionate about pricing. You cannot go out to eat with him without him being like, look at how they price these different entrees next to each other. I hear he does that at the movies. He does it everywhere. He eats, sleeps, drinks pricing. And not just any pricing, like really value-focused pricing. So today we are very lucky to have on Mark Stiving, former product instructor at Pragmatic. He still does some teaching here, and then he also owns Impact Pricing, and he is about to release his fourth book. So welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Rebecca. I cannot believe you make me laugh at myself when you do these introductions.
Those are my favorite parts. I'm like, Yes. So for those of you people listening who may not know you, Mark, who can now go and listen to all your other episodes, give everybody sort of your origin story. Why are you so just obsessed with pricing? So focused on pricing?
Well, we're going back to when I was 12 years old. And I went to the grocery store with my mom, and I remember seeing prices that ended in nines, right? So 99, $1.29. And I always wondered, why do companies do that? Do they think we're stupid? Right? We know 99 is $1. So 20 years later, I found myself at the doctoral program at UC Berkeley, and I had a chance to play with scanner panel data. And this is the data that grocery stores collect when we use our loyalty cards. And I could test if this 9-cent thing actually works or not, statistically. Turns out it works. And it works because we are lazy subtractors. I became addicted to understanding how people use prices to make decisions. It's just a fascinating topic. And over the 30 years since then, I've probably transitioned more to understanding, hey, it's really about value. It's really about how do people perceive the value of our products. And I spend more time talking about value now than I do about the actual number or the price, but it's all the same topic.
Yeah. I think, yeah. And it's one of the things, so I've learned a lot about what I know about pricing from you, right, over the years. And one of the things that we always talk about, obviously, is willingness to pay. You should price at what someone is willing to pay. And then you also talk about how not everybody is willing to pay the same amount, right? What you would pay for a bourbon is different than what I might pay for a bourbon. Or appreciate the difference there, right? There's lots of reasons this is. And recently you've been doing a lot of writing and thinking and talking about segmentation and how that kind of works with pricing. And so that's what I really, really want to talk about today. And really how market segments and starting at the top is how you really develop and optimize your pricing strategy. So let's do that.
Let's do that. Can we start with an example? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
So you and I are going to do an exercise. Now, sadly, I have the advantage because I've done this a few times before, but let's talk about Uber for a second.
Excellent.
And in the world of Uber, can you think of different situations where people would want to hire Uber?
Yes,
right?
I've lived many of them.
Well, let's just share some with us.
Okay, so date night. We like to take an Uber out for date night. The rides from
Is that so you can make out in the back seat?
No, it's so we can have a few drinks while we're out.
Oh, okay, got it.
We're being safe. The airport, right? Going to and from the airport's always a big one. I could see, like, if I didn't live in the middle of the woods, if my car was broken or didn't have one, I would Uber. Those are my big use case. The airport is a big one, travel.
And date nights. Is the airport even bigger when it's Christmas and you can't find a parking place at the airport?
Yes, exactly. When the parking lots sell out. For here in New England, it's April vacation where you can no longer get a spot.
Yeah. And would you ever consider sending your daughter somewhere on an Uber?
I have. Yes.
Right. And then I don't know about you guys where you are, but I can tell you here in Reno in the wintertime, we have Uber Ski. Right.
Ooh, we had to get a special Uber with our pets once.
Oh, there we go. Right. I want to take my
Ubers
pets.
For your dogs, right? I mean, you have to go with your dogs. It's not just
right?
the dogs. They don't get to go for a ride, but yes.
Right.
We did do that.
And then we've actually forgotten a big piece of Uber's business. Would you ever like to order dinner and have it delivered to your house?
Indeed.
So there's the whole Uber Eats piece.
And Uber to medical appointments.
Uber to medical
when my dad couldn't drive for medical, he would take an Uber to medical appointments. Yeah.
Yeah, I take Uber every time I travel nowadays. I don't even bother renting a car. I take Uber unless I'm someplace where I don't think Uber is going to be. So in the middle of nowhere. But I'll Uber constantly when I travel now.
Nice.
So what we just did was we just listed a whole lot of different ways that people would use Uber. Now the question becomes, which ones are most valuable? And so would you pay more to make sure your daughter's safe than, you riding to the airport?
Of course.
Of course you would, right? I mean, that's like a no-brainer.
Right.
Oh, here's one that I've heard of in the past that I want to bring up. Some women would rather only ride with a female driver.
I just heard about that. I think it was Lyft who has that option now, right?
Oh, do they? I didn't know that anybody offers that.
I think someone I just heard about this.
Yeah. Yeah. And so these are all things where you say, oh, I would pay more if I could only ride with a female driver or something.
If I could bring my puppy, right?
If I could bring my puppy. And so we start thinking to ourselves, okay, got it. There's all this different willingness to pay for all of these different situations. Now, how do we make sense of it? And that's the hard part, right? No matter what business you're in, there are different people who are willing to pay different amounts of money to solve whatever the problems are, guaranteed. So we got to find a way to make sense of all of this. And what I've finally realized after way too many years of thinking about this problem is that there's this hierarchy of value that we want to think about. And at the very top level of what I'm now calling my value decision hierarchy, because as a company, you've got to make these decisions. How am I going to create and deliver the value that I have and charge for that value? And at the very top level, we have to pick a market segment. Everybody's heard market segmentation. Everybody's heard focus. And man, we've heard it out the wazoo. But the question is, can we actually do it in a way that makes sense? And I got to say, I didn't know this before I was a pragmatic instructor. I learned this as a pragmatic instructor, and I dearly love the definition that pragmatic uses for market segmentation. And that is companies or individuals with a common set of problems, right? So it's not industry, it's not region or geography. But by the way, it could be industry or it could be region or geography, but that's not the reason. The reason is it's a different set of problems. So think about Uber's business for a second. And I can tell you right now that they have two different market segments that they work for. What are those two market segments? Happens to be Uber Eats and Uber, or we could call it Uber People, right? But it's
Uber
what we've
people.
always thought of as Uber. And so they've defined these two market segments. By the way, I haven't been on their website. They might have a delivery service.
I think they do. And I think they have a medical one. Like it's branded specifically for medical.
That'd be brilliant, right? Because here's a set of problems. I've got to be at an appointment on time. I need someone to make sure I make it to my door when you deliver me home, right? Can I make it back in the house after the hospital appointment or whatever it happens to be? And so these are great different sets of problems. And once we can identify those high-level problems, it's really how people are making those decisions. The example that I used in the pricing course for Pragmatic, and I use this all the time because it's so clear for people, and that's LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn's pricing. And when you think about their market segmentation, they could have done market segmentation by geography. So we could have Asia, North America, Europe. We could have done market segmentation by industry, right? So we could have consumer goods or software or industrial.
All sort of the traditional segmentation, like back in the day that we would think of, right? You have a price list by industry, you have a price list by region, but that's not what they did, is it?
That is absolutely not what they did. And instead, what they did was they created market segments of recruiters, salespeople, job seekers, and then professional. And professional is everybody else. It's all of us, right? And if you think about it, what they said was, these are the problems we solve. We solve problems for recruiters that are very different than solving problems for people looking for jobs or salespeople. And so that's a brilliant market segmentation technique. And that's also what Uber has done. If you think about what are the problems we solve, well, we've got to get a person from this point A to point B. Great, that's a problem. Or I need to get food from point A to point B, but I got to get it paid for and I have to get it there warm or whatever. There's all these problems that we want to solve as we start to build out that solution. So that's a really high level decision that we have to make. And that's crucial. But that's not the end of the story. That's the beginning of the story. Because once you've defined your market segment, now you can go on to define a product portfolio that fits inside that market segment. I almost always start by thinking of good, better, best. So if you create a market segment, I'm going to say, what's the person who's willing to pay the most? If they could get everything, what would it look like? What's the person who is, really price sensitive and they just need the basics of what we do? What's that product look like? You could almost think of it as an MVP, minimum viable product. And then what's the product that most people would, the one in the middle? And of course, most people buy the one in the middle when we have good, better, best. And they buy the one in the middle because they're afraid to make a mistake. They think if they buy the best, they wasted money. They think if they buy the good, it might not be good enough. So they buy the one in the middle, right? It's pretty common. And so that's a product portfolio that we build inside the market segments. Now, LinkedIn does exactly this, by the way.
Do the product portfolio, so we have market segments. We'll just keep going with our LinkedIn example, right? You've got the hiring, you've got sales, you've got normal people. And within there, you've got portfolios, good, better, best. Are they always discrete offerings? Like, is the portfolio always different for each segment, or is it sometimes just positioned differently?
So it doesn't have to be different. In fact, I could tell you on LinkedIn, just by the way they name some of their products, that the professional might overlap with the job seeker version.
Yeah.
Right. So it might be the same product, the same version of the product, but it goes in that market segment. But there are levels where it may not overlap. And yeah, I'll just stop there.
Okay. So everyone could have the same good, as it turned out, but then different collections of features in the better or best, or opposite ways, right?
Yes.
Got it.
And if you think about LinkedIn, everybody has the exact same free, right? So,
yes, that's true.
So it doesn't matter what your segment is, you can have it for free. Once you want to pay them, though, you typically say, hey, this is who I am, so that they can offer you the product that actually solves your problems. But by the way, let's go down. Let's take a look at Uber.
Okay.
Right. So I have actually never used Uber Eats. I apologize.
What? What?
But I use Uber People all the time. And so let's think about what the Uber does for Uber People. We already talked about Uber Ski or Uber Pets.
Right.
They have Comfort.
Yep.
And it'll hold up to 4 people.
They have extra large when you're traveling with peeps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They have Uber X, which is the cars aren't going to be quite as nice, but we have more drivers that way. They have Uber Rideshare for those of us that are super price sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so this is what they've crafted as a product portfolio for their Uber people.
Right. Everybody needs a ride. That's my common market segment, but I have different wants and needs in there.
Different versions of my product to solve slightly different problems.
And okay, you're right. I mean, I was going to say, no, it's the same version of the product, but it's not, because certain cars will take the dogs and certain cars won't and certain cars won't. So it's the same product in theory, but it is a subset of the cars being features that are available for each one.
Exactly right.
Yes.
That's exactly right. And so think of, an airline, United Airlines, they've got first class, they've got coach. We're all going from point A to point B. Some people are doing it with less money in their wallet and more space. Right?
Yes.
And so this is just, what's the product portfolio look like? By the way, I don't know if airlines do this or not, but they could sell cargo transport with empty luggage space.
You can. I feel very dog oriented in this particular episode, but yes, you can. I've shipped my dog from Massachusetts to Nevada without me on the plane. I've also taken a dog with me on the plane in cargo, but I've done it without me.
Yes. And so if we ship cargo, that's actually a different market segment.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Shipping dogs would be definitely a different market segment.
Yes, indeed. It went well. If anyone's worried at home, it went well.
I was going to say, I have a special requirement that it gets there alive.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it was just a side note, but interesting, flying a dog to Nevada, the weather has to be within a certain band. And so it was difficult for it not to be too cold from where it was leaving or too hot from where it was going, right? Like trying to find the time of year when those two lined up was troublesome.
Nice. That's like April 17th is the day.
Yeah, let's go get him.
Okay. So by the way, the story's not over yet.
Okay. Wait, there's more. So we've got market segments, common problems. With each one of those, we're doing a portfolio. And if you can, you get bonus points for good, better, best. But it doesn't have to be good, better, best, right? It is what collection of your offerings you could make something new, and it could just be how you package together what you already have.
Yes. I often think about product portfolios as what features do I put in which products?
Yes. Yes. I think often people get really nervous. Like, I'm going to have to build a whole bunch of other things. And, no, it can even be what you talk about. You don't necessarily have to actually strip out a feature. If that's going to take your development resources, you can leave it in, right? Like, but that's not what we're going to focus on. That's not what we're going to talk about. That's not what we're going to onboard you on.
Right. And by the way, quick lesson for all you software companies, every feature should be gated and flagged, right? So every feature you should be able to turn on and off in your product.
Yes.
And that way it makes it really easy for you to start to create these packages, create different products for different segments, different products within different market segments. Very true.
Often though, we think about that after we've built the first version. And then you're like, oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely right. Now, at the product portfolio level, we also want to think about our pricing metrics here. Okay. So the pricing metric is, what are you going to charge for? And so when I think about a pricing metric, Google charges by the ad click, right? Dropbox charges by the terabyte of storage.
Yes.
LinkedIn charges by the number of InMails you want to send, right? And so there's lots of different things you could choose to charge for. What you want to do at this level is think about, what is it that we're actually charging for? And so we know that.
I was going to say, I think this is an area where people don't always spend a lot of time thinking about it. They just think, well, everybody charges for user, so I'll charge for user. But I know that there are better ways of thinking about the metric, and the metric should be tied to where they're getting the value. If I get more of X metrics, does it absolutely relate to value, right?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And what we always want to do is think about, how does our customer get value from our product? And if you think about, let's go back to the market segmentation piece, and that is, I've got different customers with different problems.
Mm-hmm.
And so the value I get is from solving that problem. And what that implies is that it's very possible, if not likely, that I'm going to need a different pricing metric to capture that value. So let's talk about LinkedIn for a second. All right, we'll go back to LinkedIn. In the world of LinkedIn, if you're a salesperson, what's your value? You get value from closing deals. You get value from having a lot of customers. You get value from prospecting. And so LinkedIn has created InMail as their key pricing metric. Now, they still charge per seat or per user, but they also charge for the number of InMails and the capabilities we give you to do all that. And then if we go over to recruiters aren't focused on that. Recruiters are focused on, how many jobs do I have that I have to fill? Right? How many openings am I going to fill? And so they've got a very different pricing metric on the recruiter side than they do on the salesperson side. Think about Uber, right? To get me from point A to point B, the pricing metric is typically, by the way, they don't tell us this. They just tell us what the number is.
Right.
Right. But the pricing metric is typically, how far are you going to go and how much time is it going to take? Right. And that's how they calculate the number that you're going to pay them. But if you're going to order Uber Eats, the pricing metric is a percentage of the bill. Right. How much money are you spending? And we get a chunk of that. And so we can think about, what are the pricing metrics at the level of the product portfolio?
Interesting. You don't often think about it, but it makes your examples are really good, right? I have a different pricing metric based on segment because they value different pieces. Do you ever have different pricing metrics in the good, better, best?
I think it's probably possible, but I can't think of an example. Okay. And I would say that I wouldn't focus on that unless it became obvious that you needed something different.
Okay, that makes sense. So we have market segments, we've got portfolios of products, we've got pricing metrics. So we're done, right? Like that's a pretty complicated, that's a lot of opportunities.
There's just one more level to go. One more level to go. And so first off, in the last level, I'm going to start with the word price, right? So you got a product that's inside a market segment. You got to put a price on it.
True.
So what price are we going to put on that? But let's make it a little more complicated, because it isn't just a price. For any given product, different people have different willingnesses to pay. Right? So you and I both might be driving to the exact same airport on Christmas time, and you're thinking, man, I would pay this much not to have to find a parking place. And I'm thinking I would pay a whole lot more not to have to find a parking place, because I'm way more of a diva than Rebecca is.
True. This is a true statement.
But so different people have different willingnesses to pay. The question now is, can we find ways to get different people to pay us different amounts? And this is where we have the level of price segmentation. And price segmentation is, hey, I'm just going to, for the exact same product, I'm going to charge different prices. So we've got a zillion examples of this. But if we go to, let's do the airline example. If you didn't buy the ticket for the person sitting next to you, do you think they paid the same price that you did?
Oh, I know they did not.
Exactly, right? This is price segmentation. Oh, when did you order the ticket, right? Where did you buy it from? Oh my gosh, I got a blog coming out. I haven't written it yet, Rebecca, but I'm going to write a blog because I saw this article the other day. Fodor's does the study where they use a VPN to buy, or at least to price hotel rooms in different countries.
Ooh.
Right. And so you could pretend to be from the US and want to buy a hotel in Spain, or, want to get a hotel night in Spain. You could pretend to be from Spain and want to get a hotel in Spain. And it turns out they charge Americans more money.
Oh,
right? Go
They're
figure.
Like, oh, you got vacation mind, right? And you're just like, this one's safe. Oh, fascinating. Interesting.
I know. But this is just price segmentation. It's the same product. How do we charge different people different prices based on their willingness to pay? Or how do we estimate that? And so this is price segmentation.
So it all makes complete sense to me, right? Market segmentation, right? They have common problems. So I'm going to do a portfolio, good, better, best. I'm going to figure out what metric I should charge that's tied to the value of solving the problem that all of these groups have. And then even understand that I'm going to have more finite control to figure out how much to price. It sounds straightforward. I would not say it sounds simple or easy, right? From an execution perspective, this sounds like complicated, right? How do people, what is required to take full advantage of that? And if I don't have that, how can I start getting some of the extra sort of revenue and profit by starting in some of these areas?
Yeah. So what I see most often when I go talk to clients, and people don't think this way very well, but what I see most often is that they've got a single market segment, or they're treating everybody like one market segment, and they've got a series of products out there. And my recommendation is usually, let's go peel off a tiny market segment. I don't know which one it's going to be, but can you find the segment? Who are the customers who value your product a lot? And they have something in common. They're solving a different problem than everybody else is solving. And so just to use our Uber example, let's pretend like we build a market segment around Christmas vacation travelers.
Okay.
Right. I'm not sure that's a brilliant market segmentation, but let's do it, right?
Definitely a seasonal business. Yes.
Right. So you've got your market segment, and now you say, could I craft a specific product to go after and support that market segment? Right. So I don't care what I do. It isn't, we have this belief that, oh my God, our product is so good and it already does that and it helps them out. But you have to step back and say, no, think about Christmas, right? What is going on there? And by the way, I'm making this stuff on the fly, so this may sound horrible, but maybe we have extra space to carry Christmas presents.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe we ship the presents for you so they arrive at the same place that you're going to arrive to.
Will you wrap them for me too?
I might. Depends on how much. That's my best category. I'm going to wrap them.
You.
Right. But we start to think about, what are the actual problems that segment has? And can I create a product specifically for them? And as soon as I can do that, that segment, because they get the most value, is going to buy that product. Now, let me give you the best example of this. And I'm going to go back to LinkedIn. That's my favorite, right? If you think about LinkedIn, what is it? It's resume storage and search, right? Pretty much that's what they do. And yet LinkedIn charges recruiters 10 times more than what they charge salespeople. And why is that? Because recruiters get so much value. Think about what it costs to hire an outside recruiter to come place someone in your company. It's ridiculously expensive because it's a hard job.
Right.
And they're able to do something with what they have that helps recruiters do that job so much better. And so there's this value that they can charge for. Now, a recruiter could buy the Salesforce version, right? They could buy Sales Navigator instead of the recruiter version, but they don't because LinkedIn has created features that go around resume storage and search that helps recruiters do their job better. And they can charge recruiters a whole lot of money for that.
Yeah. All right. So going to what we talked about too. So there's lots of options. Find one segment that values your product the most, who has the biggest problems we're solving, and start building this out for them. You can see the success. That success gets buy-in and funding, frankly, to keep adding on more of these.
Yep. Absolutely spot on.
Excellent. All right. Well, as always, it's a pleasure. What else? I always have to ask. We talked about lots of different things other than what I just said. So you have to come up with other items, Mark. What would you have? What would you want people to do? 2 things you want people to do differently tomorrow based on what we talked about today.
Didn't I just do all the talking?
But I did the someone. So yeah, you have to come up with your own.
Okay, so here are my two things. Think about your current product portfolio and does it fit in this value decision hierarchy, right? Do you have portfolios, different products for different market segments? And do you have the pricing metrics defined for those product portfolios or for those individual products? I think that's a huge deal because it gets you thinking this way. And then, of course, price segmentation. If you're not doing price segmentation today, go do it. It just puts free money in your pocket. It means we're going to charge different customers different prices based on their willingness to pay. And it's totally okay.
Excellent. All right. Mark, if people want to hear more from you, where should I send them?
So I'm very active on LinkedIn, and feel free to email me, mark@impactpricing.com.
Awesome. Thank you for coming on again.
Thanks, Rebecca. It's always fun.
All right, that does it for today's episode. Thank you everyone for listening. And remember, if you liked today's episode, please share it with your community and leave us a review so others can find us as well. And also don't forget to send in your questions to productchats@pragmaticinstitute.com or leave a voicemail at 480-536-8635. And don't forget to join us next week when we tackle another great topic designed to help you elevate your product, your company, and your career.